You don't really expect the knife to come from the hand that once tucked you into bed at night. But there I was, 35, sitting in the kitchen of the house I bought for my mother, the taste of betrayal settling on my tongue like metal. She served me tea with the same smile she wore when I was 5 and had a fever. Except now I knew, behind that smile was the woman who helped steal the life I was building. I'm not the kind of man who breaks things when he's angry. I don't raise my voice, and I don't give people the satisfaction of knowing they got to me. That's not how I was raised. Ironically, that's exactly why they thought I wouldn't find out. But I did. Her name was Tessa. My fiancée. We were together for 4 years, engaged for 1. I'd bought the ring myself, 2 months of savings, 3 trips to the jeweler, and a long talk with her father. It mattered to me. Not because I needed to prove something, but because love, to me, has always been about showing up, when it's easy, and especially when it's not. And my mother knew that. She knew what Tessa meant to me. So when I found out she had been whispering doubts in Tessa's ear, sowing seeds of disappointment, feeding her the idea that my little brother Adam was the better man, I didn't flip the table or scream into the walls. I sat there. I watched. I collected everything. It started small. Tessa's jokes about Adam's charm got a little too frequent. The way she lit up when he entered the room, I chalked it up to familiarity. Adam's my younger brother by 5 years. We weren't close growing up, too much distance, too much competition, but I always tried to be decent to him. Then came the nights Tessa stayed late at my mother's house, helping with dinner. The cancelled plans. The awkward silences when I walked into a room. The eye contact that disappeared as quickly as it came. Something was off. I started watching without letting them know I was watching. I began to notice patterns. Tessa's phone calls to my mom late at night. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Texts she'd hide when I glanced her way. Then I did something I never thought I would, I checked her phone while she was asleep. What I saw made my heart slow down and burn cold. A thread of messages between Tessa and my mother. One from my mother read. You deserve someone who listens, who makes you feel seen. I raised both boys, you know which one got that from me. And then another, from Tessa. I love him, but I feel when I'm around Adam. Like I'm not invisible. The rest was worse. Flirtation. Plans. Even a photo, Tessa in the blue dress she'd worn on our anniversary dinner, but the background wasn't the restaurant. It was Adam's apartment. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I copied everything. Forwarded the texts. Backed up her messages. Downloaded timestamps. I was methodical. Cold. Focused. Because the thing about betrayal from people who should have loved you the most is, it doesn't make you want to destroy everything. It makes you want to rebuild something stronger from the ashes. And I was going to burn the lies to the ground. There's a strange kind of stillness that settles in a man when he stops denying the truth. The kind of stillness that doesn't come with peace, but with clarity. That's what I had now. Clarity. Cold, heavy, and unshakable. I spent the next week smiling. Not because I was happy, but because I had slipped on the mask. At work, I was the same old dependable Garrett. Solid. Reliable. At home, I played the role of the slightly distracted fiancé, a little stressed from work, I told Tessa. She didn't question it. She was too busy sneaking off for her afternoon Pilates sessions. I knew better. Adam's apartment was on the other side of town. He lived in a 2-bedroom condo I helped him co-sign 3 years ago when his credit was trash. He called me Big Bro then. Said he owed me everything. I suppose he thought everything included the woman I was going to marry. It was on a Monday that I put the second piece of my plan into motion. I met with a lawyer, Samantha Avery. My company used her for executive disputes. She wasn't the kind you see on billboards or morning TV ads. No, Sam was the kind you only hear about if someone really wronged you and you wanted to ruin them legally, professionally, and, if possible, socially. She listened in silence as I laid it all out. The texts. The timing. The betrayal. She didn't blink. When I finished, she leaned forward and said one sentence that stuck with me. They thought you'd react. And because you didn't, you've already won the first battle. She explained the options. Legal routes. Financial strategy. Reputation management. She'd help me build a narrative of dignity, her words, and a watertight exit plan that would leave both of them gasping for air by the time they realized the ship had sunk. But this wasn't just about legal revenge. That would come later. This part of the game was psychological. So I started being kind to Adam. Overly kind. I sent him a bottle of his favorite whiskey. Showed up to his work one afternoon with burgers and fries, just because. I offered to help him with a freelance portfolio to get him out of the dead-end graphic design job he hated. He bought it. All of it. Tessa. She grew more distant. That was fine, I encouraged it. I stopped initiating anything intimate. I started suggesting she go see her friends more often, get space to think. The guilt in her eyes grew like a slow, creeping vine. She wasn't sure if I knew. And that uncertainty was doing my work for me. Then I found the email. Not a text. Not a chat. An email. From my mother. Subject: he's not the man you think he is. Tessa, I know this is hard. But you deserve more than being second in someone's life. Garrett's always been obsessed with control, he'll never make room for you. You and Adam, you have something real. Something built on passion. Don't feel guilty. I didn't raise you, but I see you as the daughter I never had. Just, follow your heart. I'll support you both. No matter what happens. I stared at that email for a long time. Then I downloaded it. Printed it. Sealed it in an envelope. And mailed it. To myself. Chain of custody, Sam had explained. For the legal record. The breaking point came one rainy Thursday. I returned home early, unannounced. Tessa wasn't there. Her phone, however, was unlocked. Charging in the kitchen. I didn't go looking for dirt. I already had enough. But one thread stood out, an ongoing message chain with my mother titled, Speech Balloon Advice. The last message was just 2 words. It's time. That was the moment something deep inside me finally died. Not rage. Not grief. Not even betrayal. Just the last strand of belief that family meant loyalty. When she came home, I kissed her cheek. She looked at me with confusion, like she'd forgotten how affection felt coming from me. Everything okay? She asked. I smiled. Everything's perfect. And it was. Because the next phase had already begun. I believe there's an art to revenge. Not the loud kind, the silent kind. The kind that walks in like a gentleman and leaves like a ghost, after rearranging the walls behind you. By now, Tessa and Adam had started making subtle mistakes. The kind people make when they think they've won. They thought I was numb. They thought I was defeated. But what I was focused. Let me tell you a bit more about my mother, Caroline. To the outside world, she's a godsend. Active in local charities. Head of the school board. Sits on 2 nonprofit boards for youth development. If you saw her on Facebook, you'd think she was a mix between Eleanor Roosevelt and Joanna Gaines. But behind closed doors, my mother was always a strategist. She'd raise you with praise just to keep you performing for it. She believed love was earned, not given. And when you stopped performing, she stopped clapping. Now she was playing puppet master, moving pieces to fit her version of a better family. One where her golden boy Adam had the perfect woman, and I, the disappointment for not giving her grandkids fast enough, was quietly erased. So I decided to flip the board. The first cut didn't bleed. It started with a letter, anonymous, but detailed. Sent to the director of the youth nonprofit where my mother chaired the fundraising committee. Inside, I included excerpts from the email she'd sent Tessa. Carefully redacted to protect names, but clear enough to raise eyebrows. I attached a copy of my fiancée's resume, with a timestamp of her last listed employer, a PR firm owned by the nonprofit's largest donor. I hinted at improper influence and unethical interference in board-related hiring decisions. I mailed it from another city. No fingerprints. No digital trail. A week later, Caroline was placed on a temporary leave pending an ethics review. The second cut came for Adam. He worked freelance, mostly web design and branding. A decent portfolio, but most of his gigs came through a referral agency I helped him get into. So I made a phone call. Not as a brother, but as a concerned client, who had received work strikingly similar to a design already published online. I attached 2 links, one real, one doctored. I knew how their compliance team operated. Design plagiarism is a red flag in that industry. 3 days later, Adam was quietly dropped by the agency. No explanation. No appeal. He wouldn't even know why until he started wondering why the contracts stopped coming. Meanwhile, I kept playing the role. The doting fiancé. The polite son. Tessa was now fully in the throes of her guilt-turned infatuation. She spent nights out. Came home flushed, guilty. I never asked. Never accused. Just kissed her forehead and went to bed. The less I reacted, the deeper the hole she dug for herself. I wasn't punishing her, not yet. I was simply letting her believe I didn't care. That was the most unnerving thing of all. My lawyer, Sam, had started assembling what she called the package. Digital and printed evidence. A timeline of communications. Financial records. A statement of witness accounts, including one I never expected. Nancy. Tessa's best friend, and, once upon a time, mine too. She called me one afternoon, voice low, hesitant. I don't know what's going on, she said, but I think you should know, your mother's been encouraging Tessa to upgrade to Adam for over a year. Upgrade, I repeated, the word tasting like acid. She said you'd never be enough for someone like her. That night, I added Nancy's statement to the folder. And I poured myself a drink. Not in sorrow. But in preparation. Because the next cut. The next one wouldn't just bruise. It would bleed. And the ones who caused it would be the ones holding the knife, on themselves. The thing about a well-set trap is this, when it finally springs shut, no one hears the click. Not at first. They just feel the world shift beneath their feet. That was the week the walls started closing in. And I didn't have to lift a finger. Tessa was the first to stumble. It started with a dinner, our 1-year engagement anniversary. I knew she'd forgotten. Of course she had. Her head wasn't in our future anymore. It was tangled in a fantasy with Adam and whatever future my mother painted in her head. Still, I cooked. Candlelight, steak, wine. The works. She came home 2 hours late, heels in her hand, eyes smudged, hair pulled back hastily. Oh my God, she said, stopping in the doorway. Is this? I gave her a soft smile. Happy anniversary. She stood frozen, guilt radiating off her like heat from pavement. I thought we were just doing something this weekend. I shrugged. I figured we'd do it now. Who knows what the weekend holds, right? She sat across from me, barely touching the plate. I didn't press. I just poured her wine and asked about her day. She lied. I watched her carefully constructed story unravel in real time. She mentioned a client meeting at a downtown coffee shop, the same coffee shop that had closed 3 months ago. Her eyes darted, her voice faltered. I nodded. Said nothing. And she cracked. By dessert, she was crying. Half drunk, whispering that she didn't mean for things to get complicated. That's when I stood up. Walked over to the drawer in the hallway. Pulled out a manila folder. Slid it across the table. What's this? She asked, her voice cracking. Reality, I said. She opened it and found printed screenshots of texts, photos, emails, everything. Including the email from my mother. I don't understand, she whispered. You don't have to, I said. You just have to sign the acknowledgement at the back. I've already had it reviewed. This isn't for court. This is for me. It states that you confirmed the relationship with Adam, and that you knowingly concealed it during our engagement. Why would you need something like that? She asked, her voice rising. I looked her dead in the eyes. To protect myself when this hits the surface. You're not the only one with receipts. The next day, Adam called. I let it ring 4 times before I picked up. Garrett, what the hell is going on? He snapped. What's wrong? I said, keeping my voice even. I just got dropped by every single client I've had in the last 6 months. Nobody's returning calls. One of them said I'm flagged for plagiarism. Do you know anything about that? Why would I? I asked calmly. You're the creative genius, remember? There was silence. Then he said it. You did this. You're setting me up. I didn't respond. Silence was my weapon now. He hung up. That weekend, my mother's name appeared in a local news bulletin. The nonprofit's internal review had leaked. Whispers of misconduct and conflict of interest floated in the article. No names confirmed, but just enough smoke for the public to start wondering what the fire looked like. She called me that night. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was tight, angry in the way only someone who's lost control can be. Garrett. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're destroying your own family. We were trying to help you, and this is how you repay us. If you think this is over, you're wrong. That last sentence stayed with me. Because that's what she never understood. It was over. She just hadn't been served the notice yet. Sam, my lawyer, called Monday morning. We're ready to go, she said. You sure? I asked. We have her signed acknowledgement, your evidence package, and witness testimony. Once we file, it becomes part of public record. I want you to be absolutely sure, Garrett. There's no turning back. I stood at the window, watching the trees sway gently in the April wind. There's nothing left to turn back to. She paused. Then we file in the morning. I spent that night alone. No Tessa. No calls from Adam. Just the sound of my own thoughts, and, for the first time in months, they were still. Not because I'd won. But because I'd stopped playing their game. And started playing mine. People assume that when revenge lands, it comes with noise, shouting, glass breaking, doors slamming. But real consequences? They arrive quietly. They don't ask permission. They don't need to explain themselves. They just show up. And that morning, they did. At 8:06 a.m., Sam filed the documents. The acknowledgement of infidelity, the breach of trust, the supporting evidence. She had built the kind of airtight package that doesn't just get submitted, it gets noticed. By 9:15, I had a call from a mutual friend. Hey. I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but I just saw your name on the public docket. Thanks for letting me know, I said. I wasn't surprised. Sam said it would be on the online register before lunch. Everything clean. Professional. Factual. No accusations. Just, truth. Truth, under oath. Around 11:30 a.m., Tessa showed up at my apartment. Yes, I'd moved out. Quietly. Cleanly. I packed my essentials a week prior and left the rest like I was heading out on business. She didn't even notice I'd taken a framed photo of us from the bookshelf. I opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept. Why would you make it public? She asked, stepping inside without being invited. You said this wasn't about destroying me. It's not, I replied. This is just about clarity. And accountability. You humiliated me, she snapped. No, I said, my voice calm, measured. You did that when you fell in love with my brother and thought I'd never notice. She dropped onto the couch, head in her hands. Why didn't you just yell? Or leave? Why all this quiet stuff? I sat across from her, elbows on knees. Because yelling gives you an out. It lets you frame me as unstable. Loud. Dangerous. I leaned forward. This way, people saw you first. That afternoon, Caroline, the woman who raised me to believe strength meant silence, made her first public statement to the nonprofit board. It was brief. She, regretfully, stepped down. Cited, personal matters. Thanked the community. But the ripple was out. 2 local parenting blogs posted screenshots of the board's internal memo. One of them caught wind of her connection to Adam and Tessa's affair, thanks to a very pointed anonymous tip, one I may or may not have sent, using a burner email and a subject line that read, "Community leaders must be held accountable." Within hours, her legacy was tarnished. Her name didn't trend. It didn't go viral. But it got quiet. And in her world, that kind of silence. That was death. Adam tried reaching out next. He didn't text. He showed up. Drunk. Dude, he slurred, leaning against the hood of my car in the lot outside my apartment. You don't have to burn everything down, man. You're not, this guy. No, I said, pulling the car door open. I wasn't. He blinked. I'm your brother. I paused. Then said the thing I'd been carrying in my chest since this started. No, Adam. You were just the other son. And now you're the one who took more than he could hold. I drove away without waiting for a response. Sam sent me a text that night. Media's staying quiet. No heat yet. But your mother and Adam? Losing credibility fast. Damage done. You're clear. I turned off my phone. Sat back in the quiet. I wasn't celebrating. There's no confetti at the end of a betrayal. Just breath. And choices. Tessa and I had one last conversation the next morning. In a coffee shop. Public, like she preferred. She said she was sorry. That she'd gotten caught up in something that felt easier. I was tired of waiting, she said. I nodded. I was tired of trusting. She asked if I hated her. No, I said. Hate takes energy. You're just, something I survived. Closure doesn't come with fanfare. No audience. No applause. No one hands you a certificate that says, "Congratulations, you've let go of a toxic family." Closure shows up in moments, quiet, unsentimental, and asks only one thing of you. Walk away and don't look back. The courthouse was quieter than I expected. Final hearing. No contest. No drama. Tessa didn't show. She'd signed everything 2 days earlier, her signature looping and tired. It was all there, acknowledgement of misconduct, forfeiture of joint property, and most importantly, her agreement to leave quietly. I watched the judge skim the file, barely glancing up. Everything seems in order, he said. Effective immediately. Just like that. For years of love, laughter, plans, and betrayal, reduced to a single sentence in a cold room with bad fluorescent lighting. And yet, I felt lighter than I had in years. Outside, the air was crisp. Early spring. The kind of morning where the sun's warm, but the wind still bites. I stood at the top of the courthouse steps and just breathed. Not for effect. Not for drama. For me. I didn't owe anyone my pain anymore. Adam sent one last message that week. A voice memo. Slurred again. You think this makes you better than me? You just threw your family away. She picked me because I'm real. Because I don't pretend to be perfect like you. I didn't respond. That was the last time he ever used my number. Caroline. She sent a letter. Handwritten. As if that would make it more sincere. It was full of those classic half-apologies. I only wanted what was best for you. You never let me in. Family is messy, Garrett. But we're all we've got. No. We weren't. Family isn't blood. It's behavior. It's what people do when no one's watching. And I had watched all I needed to. I didn't read past the second paragraph. I folded the letter back into the envelope, walked it out to the fire pit behind my place, and lit the match myself. It burned quickly. Ash doesn't leave much of a trace. Sam and I met one last time at her office to close out the case. Any regrets? She asked. None, I said. Pain, sure. But regret? I shook my head. Regret implies I wish I'd done less. She gave me a rare smile. You did something most people don't. You didn't explode. You executed. You made it clean. That's all I wanted, I said. Not revenge. Just the truth. Seen. Acknowledged. Lived with. You know, she said, standing to shake my hand, most of the men I help, they either implode or disappear. You stood still while the storm came to you. I learned that from the same woman who taught me how to survive her. The lease on my old apartment expired the next month. I didn't renew it. Instead, I packed what little I had left, sold what I didn't need, and drove west. Not because I was running. But because I had nothing left to fix. Sometimes peace isn't found where you are. It's found in the distance between who you were, and who you refuse to be again. I cut ties with everyone from the old life. Friends who stayed neutral. Family who stayed silent. The cousins who called just to gossip. All of them. Deleted. Blocked. Unsubscribed from the noise. I don't owe anyone proximity to the man I had to become to survive this. And then, one morning, months later, I woke up without thinking about any of them. No Tessa. No Adam. No Caroline. Just a window view, a sunrise, and a cup of black coffee. It didn't feel like a triumph. It felt like stillness. And in that stillness, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. My own voice. Clear. Quiet. Unafraid. It's been 3 years. 3 years since I walked away from the ashes of a life I once called mine. I didn't move to punish them. I didn't disappear to make a point. I left because I realized peace doesn't knock. You don't wait for it to arrive. You go out and build it with your bare hands. I live in Montana now. Small town. Quiet. Honest work. I run a woodworking shop with 2 guys I trust and a dog named Jasper who sheds like a banshee but doesn't judge me when I wake up at 3 a.m. and sit on the porch in silence. My phone doesn't ring much anymore. That used to scare me. Now. I'm grateful for every day I don't have to explain myself to someone who never really listened in the first place. I still think about them sometimes. Not with hatred. With distance. Like you'd remember the outline of a scar beneath your shirt, something that no longer hurts, but still reminds you where the blade once entered. Tessa got married, I heard. Not to Adam. To someone else entirely. No photos on social media. Just whispers from old friends I no longer return calls to. Adam faded into obscurity. Tried to start a podcast. Lasted 5 episodes. Caroline. She sent me one last letter a year ago. Didn't open it. Didn't burn it either. I buried it under a stone near the woodshed. Seemed fitting. What did I learn? That betrayal doesn't always come in black and white. Sometimes it wears a familiar smile. Sometimes it holds your hand while it twists the knife. But I also learned this: dignity is quiet. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't seek applause. It stands alone, when no one else does. I'm not the same man I was when this started. Back then, I thought justice meant breaking people. Now I know real justice is becoming someone they can no longer reach. Let them look for you in the wreckage, they'll find nothing left of the man they used to manipulate. I still have the manila folder. All the documents. The texts. The emails. I keep it in a locked drawer, not out of obsession, but out of discipline. A reminder. That when you feel yourself slipping, forgetting what you endured, you can look at that paper and say, never again. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever speak to my family again. My answer is simple. Forgiveness is for me. Reconnection. That's earned. And I don't offer credit to people who bankrupt my trust. But I'm not bitter. Not anymore. These days, I spend more time carving than cutting. I make chairs that will last 50 years. Tables that hold the weight of generations. Gifts for people I barely know, because it feels good to build again. Because healing, it turns out, isn't found in destruction. It's found in creation. If you're reading this, and you've been betrayed, let me leave you with this. Don't rush to light the match. Learn to build the furnace. Let the fire burn inside you until it forges something new, something stronger. Let the pain make you precise. Let the silence make you sharp. And when the time comes, don't scream. Speak once. Let your life be the echo.